My personal beliefs. One quarter of a football game means infinitely more to me than whatever preseason expectations I may have of a team. And we've been talking about these teams for months on months on months since Indiana was crowned as the national champion in 2026. We've had plenty of time to talk about these teams. We've gone through spring ball, fall ball is well underway for all of these teams. So I don't care what my preseason PK poll looks like. When the games actually play on the field, my preseason expectations go out the window. I only care about on field results. That's all I care about. With the AP, one of the big issues that I've had with him over the year is all right, they released this poll, but then as the games start to play out, they rely on what their preseason expectations were for a team and they adjust based on that. And listen, Clemson, LSU, Penn State, they were all thought to be national championship contenders in the preseason. Even I thought that they were going to be preseason, or I thought they were going to be national championship contenders, and they weren't. There's a lot of craziness. Nothing is certain anymore in college football. So you can't rely on your preseason expectations of a team. You got to go off on field results. So that's been a big gripe that I've had with the AP. But this one that they released yesterday, I actually don't have a huge issue with. Partly why is because I agree with a lot of it, and there are no games to indicate otherwise. So I'm just going to get into it. AP poll released yesterday. Let's go in order 1 through 25. At number 1, Ohio State. No objections there. I understand why Ohio State is number 1. They received 40 first place votes. They have one of the best, I may even believe to be the best player in college football in Jeremiah Smith. They have Julian Sayin returning for another year at quarterback, who was a Heisman finalist last year, whether you believe that to be fair or not. They're not going to be hurting at wide receiver either. They return all of their starters on the offensive line, or 4 or 5, but a majority of their offensive line returns. You bring in Arthur Smith, a former coordinator in the NFL, to run the show on offense. Matt Patricia returns for his second year as the defensive coordinator. They do have to replace a lot of production on the defensive side of the ball. So if I were to, put little question marks next to Ohio State, there aren't many, but that might be one of them. And again, this is just really nitpicking. Oregon is at number 2. No surprise there. Oregon has one of the best rosters in college football. And a lot of people believe this is the year that Oregon can finally break through in the postseason. Dante Moore, their quarterback, another year in the system. Coordinator change. I'll get to that a little bit later. But they believe that he's ready for the big stage now. So Oregon is at number 3, or excuse me, at number 2. At number 3 is Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby Smart has established a standard there. Won back-to-back national championships in 21-22. Haven't won one since, but Georgia's been the model of consistency in college football. Notre Dame is at number 4. I love Notre Dame. I am very high on Notre Dame right now in the preseason. So Notre Dame's at number 4. They received 6 first-place votes. So Oregon also, I forgot to mention, Oregon received 14 first-place votes. Texas is at 5. The amount of money that they spent in the offseason, the transfer portal class that they brought in, you pair that on top of the high school class, Arch Manning returning for a second year, all that stuff. Go figure. Indiana at number 6. This is where I start to have a big problem with the AP poll. Now, I've never believed that just because you win a national championship, automatically the next season you should be the preseason number 1. I've never believed that. But come on. I hear people talking about Indiana, analyzing Indiana, what they can be this year. And really, the only thing that I hear coming out of their mouths is, well, look at who they lost. Look at what all they lost. A lot of those James Madison guys that Curt Cignetti brought over are no longer there. True. But if you're going to talk about that, there has to be a little bit of nuance involved in the discussion. Who does Indiana have returning? Who do they have coming in? And the answer is they have the number 1 transfer portal class in college football coming in. And their quarterback, Josh Hoover, who they got from TCU, Curt Cignetti says they have all they need at quarterback. If Curt Cignetti says that, listen, guys, I've lived this life. I doubted Indiana in 3 big games last year. That Oregon game in Eugene in the regular season, I doubted Indiana. I doubted them in the Big Ten championship versus Ohio State. And then I doubted them again in the semifinals versus Oregon again. And I'm just left here with egg all over my face. Don't do this to yourselves. Don't have Indiana ranked outside of the top 5 to start if you're the AP. Curt Cignetti's proved all of us wrong at some point. Just don't do this to yourself. I'm going to move on. Miami is at 7. I have no issue with the teams inside of the top 7 for the AP. I believe they have the right 7 teams. But once I release my PK poll, I'm going to order those teams differently. Texas A&M is at number 8. This is where you start to see a run-on of your SEC teams. A&M at 8, Ole Miss at 9, Oklahoma at 10, LSU at 11. You have Texas Tech in there at 12. They're not SEC, but then Alabama is at number 13. So what this is showing is the conversation that we've all been having. Who's the superior conference between the Big Ten and the SEC? I believe the best conference in college football is the Big Ten. I judge a conference when talking about conference superiority as the conference that has the most teams capable of winning a national championship. Right now, I believe the Big Ten provides us with the most. Oregon, Indiana, Ohio State, whatever order you want to put them, I believe all of them are legitimate national championship contenders. Right now, as the public perceives it, the tier 1 of the SEC is Georgia and Texas. And the way the AP has it, they have Ohio State and Oregon above where Texas is at number 5, and then Indiana at 6. Georgia is in there at 3. So when you have 3 teams from the Big Ten in the top 6, that shows you what the AP thinks of them. And then you just have this cluster of SEC teams in the middle, which I believe represents the depth of the conference. Regardless of what you believe about the SEC, I do believe they're the most competitively balanced conference in college football, which I don't think is a stretch. There are 9 teams represented in this AP poll. Let's continue with the list. USC is at 14. You have BYU at 14. So USC and BYU are tied at 14. You have Michigan at 16, Washington at 17, Penn State at 18. So you see a run of Big Ten teams here in the middle as well. SMU is at 19, Tennessee at 20. That's a question mark. That is something that Heather Dinich, I know she came on Pat McAfee yesterday, had a big issue with. And I can understand, I can reason with Heather. I go throughout Tennessee's roster, and I know they've had some injuries in the month of August, which I will also get to a little bit later on in the show, so make sure you're staying with me. Tennessee has had a brutal month of August. But if you go and you look at the roster, it's a very talented roster. A lot of these guys were blue chips coming out of high school. The only question is at quarterback. Is it going to be Faison Brandon? Is it going to be George McIntyre? And neither of those guys have experience playing in college. They don't have experience playing in the SEC, but outside of that, I feel comfortable with the rest of the roster. So I will have Tennessee in my top 25, but I don't know if I'll have them as high as 20. Utah is at 21. Iowa, another Big Ten, at 22. Houston at 23. Louisville at 24. And Missouri at 25. So if you want a breakdown of this, 9 teams from the SEC are represented in here. 8 teams from Big Ten. So the AP is telling you who the top 2 conferences are in college football, which is no surprise to us. 4 teams from the Big 12, 3 from the ACC, and then you have Notre Dame in there. No group of 6 team represented in the AP poll, the initial AP poll. Boise State is the highest ranked group of 6. They're on the outside looking in. They're at 28. They received 43 votes to be in the poll. Another note, there's no Clemson in there. Thank goodness. When the coaches poll came out and they had Clemson at 23, I honestly thought there had been use of drugs in there. There's no Clemson. Not that I have anything against Clemson. I just don't think they're a top 25 team. Clemson, the first time they've been unranked in the preseason AP poll since 2011. So those are some pretty staggering headlines from this AP poll. But my only big issues with it, again, I love to bag on the AP poll more than anybody. But the big issue, I don't have a lot of them. I honestly agree with most of it, but Indiana at 6, I think it's criminal to have Indiana outside of the top 5, and I would have USC a little bit higher. Everything else, I think they got the right 25 teams. It's just a matter of how you want to order them. I definitely know they got the top 7 teams correct. Again, it's just a matter of order.